And to talk about that, I want to briefly bring up this article here from Money Control, mirrored on MSN.com. And the headline here is U.S. commodity crisis to give rise to new world order, says Credit Suisse's Zoltan Pozsar. Key takeaways. Credit Suisse short-term rate strategist Zoltan Pozsar, a former United States Federal Reserve and U.S. Treasury Department official, in a report said the U.S. is in a commodity crisis, and this will give rise to a new world order that will weaken the U.S. dollar and create higher inflation in the Western world. Here are the key takeaways from his note titled Bretton Woods 3. Now, for those of you who are new to this kind of information, Bretton Woods 1 was back in 1944. It was sort of during wartime. They basically, all these nations came together and said, okay, our currency is going to be based on the gold standard. And gold was represented by the U.S. dollar, and then all the different nations had their currencies pegged to the U.S. dollar, which was pegged to gold. And then in 1971, what many researchers call Bretton Woods 2, right? When we went off the gold standard. So now everybody's pegged to the dollar, which is pegged to gold, but now the dollar is not pegged to gold. So what's the dollar pegged to? Whatever. It doesn't matter. Oil, whatever
Debt,
they want.
I think.
Debt,
right?
yeah. I mean, just all kinds of stuff. And then now we're this person, Credit Suisse guy, is arguing we're in Bretton Woods 3. Very interesting. So here are the key takeaways from his little thing. We are witnessing the birth of Bretton Woods 3, a new world monetary order centered around commodity-based currencies in the East that will likely weaken the euro-dollar system and also contribute to inflationary forces in the West. So this whole Russia financial lockout has, I think, a lot more to do with this than actual Ukraine. And I mean, in terms of commodity, think about that. Commodities, right? The price of commodities. That's kind of what we're fighting over with Ukraine. Who owns it? Who controls it?
Yeah. Commodities being sort of,
oil, gas.
That makes sense too, because there's the wheat issue. There's of course, the oil and gas issue.
Especially
there's the diamonds issue
for Russia.
With the sanctions. I'm going back to Sensational Joe.
Mm-hmm.
The sanctions are all on commodities,
right?
And the fact that he hasn't sanctioned the banking, so the financial tomfoolery, the sort of imaginary economy, economic based stuff is not sanctioned yet. But it's the commodities that are sanctioned, which messes with the economy more than anything else. I mean, that's like our economy should be commodity based.
It should
be. And
be.
that's the problem, is we've gotten away from that.
Right. And
money based on real extant objects.
Right.
Versus
and this forces Russia to go back to that. They have to rely on their commodities to hold value for their currency. So that's what's it's very interesting when you start looking at it that way, because now it's like, oh, we get it. Now it's a commodities war. Who owns what, who gets rights to distribute, what currency gets to, be the operative currency of this pipeline or supply chain or whatever it might be. So let me continue here. A crisis of commodities is unfolding. Here, commodities are collateral, and collateral is money. And this crisis is about the rising allure of outside money over inside money. Bretton Woods 2 was built on inside money, and its foundations crumbled a week ago when the G7 seized Russia's FX reserves. Interesting. And plus the
what's the FX? That's the foreign exchange reserves.
Yeah.
So it took all their dollars or something.
Yeah. If those Russian oligarchs if they were parking money on any Western financial instrument, it was all seized.
Yeah.
1st June, FRI/OIS spreads can widen more to at least 50. What is this? Is this an advertisement or something?
I don't know what you're looking at.
We have 2 convictions today. Okay. Non-Russian commodities are more expensive due to the sanctions-driven supply shock that basically took Russian commodities offline. If you are a leveraged commodities trader, you need to borrow more from banks to buy commodities to move and sell them. What we're seeing is at a 50-year anniversary of the 1973 OPEC supply shock is something similar but substantially worse. The 2022 Russia supply shock, which isn't driven by the supplier but the consumer. The aggressor in the geopolitical arena is being punished by sanctions, and sanctions-driven commodity price moves threaten financial stability in the West. Is there enough collateral or for margin? Is there enough credit for margin? What happens to commodities future exchanges if players fail? Are CCPs bulletproof? The higher non-Russian commodity prices get and the lower Russian commodity prices fall. The wider FRA. Okay, so it's very technical stuff here. But in general, it's fascinating to consider commodities being part of this reset of monetary policy around the world. And how does CBDCs play into this? How does Bitcoin play into this? Bitcoin is considered a commodity by some U.S. regulators, some U.S. institutions. Others, the IRS considers it property. But I think
an asset.
Yeah. I can't remember who it was, CFTC or the other. I don't know, there's so many names, alphabet soup agencies out there. I can't remember all of them. But there's one that considers Bitcoin a commodity as well. So if that is the case, and we're sort of being forced into pegging back into commodities, or pegging the currencies back to real commodities, it makes sense that the governments, at least, and central banks that control those governments, are playing all of they're sort of hoarding everything, right? They're getting ready because there's a split happening, and also that changes around a lot of things, a lot of how day-to-day life persists. And that's part of the Great Reset. We're living through it, Basil.
Yeah,
we're living through this crazy reset of the entire world economy, reshifting. I was thinking of it this way. You know what a patch bay is, obviously, because you're a tech guy, Basil. But if you don't know what a patch bay is, basically, if you're a sound person or a video person, you have a bunch of inputs that go to the mixing board, and then you have cables that connect to other inputs that go to the microphones on the stage, and it's this little place,
like a relay.
Little relay place, and you can connect microphones on stage to whatever channel on the mixing board by patching. Connecting channel 1 on the stage to channel 3 on the mixing board, or whatever. So you have these physical cables that connect everything, that map out a stage. Similarly, you have the world trade supply chains of the world. It's like they're unplugging stuff, like big plugs, and replugging it somewhere else. Yeah. And it's messing with all of the rest of the world. We're kind of going, oh my gosh, this is crazy. And all the volatility, I think we're going to have a lot more bumpy volatility, craziness in the next year, 2 years, something like that.
And the thing that separates what's happening now from other little dips and whoopsie daisies, I mean, if you've been paying attention, you know that for a while now, the economy at large is mostly entirely artificial.
Yes.
From the price of goods to the value of property to the value of currency to the like you said, kind of like a stage setup, like a patch, a crazy spaghetti bowl of chords that are connecting values of currency with half a dozen other things to try to make it work. It's been almost entirely artificially propped up for very, very long time. Some would argue even since the 70s, but I think things worked pretty well for a little while. But especially in recent decades, after 2000, things got really squirrely. And I think that they've taken actions, drastic actions over the past couple decades to try to fix it. I mean, I think Bill Clinton's globalization initiatives that sort of connected the world together economically in a way that it hadn't been before. I think that was a step. You think of each of these big steps as like, oh, the whole thing's about to die. What do we need to do? Okay, we'll just globalize everything. Whew. That'll buy us a decade.
Right, and then they run out of room to globalize.
Right, and then it goes. Some even say that 9/11 was connected with this for a half a dozen different reasons.
Yeah,
and so again, another decade goes by. Oh my gosh! Okay, quick, do something. Oh, okay, we're okay. and then the housing bubble crisis in 2008, and now we have this where they're finally just like, okay, we'll print all the money we possibly can. We'll print 80% of all money that exists, and we'll cover it up by going to war. And then right when we're about to crash, we'll blame it on Putin, and then we'll switch everything around, and we'll build a new system, and then we can go for a while. So there's a way. There's a way of looking at this that is like,
they're doing the best they can.
Well, right.
I mean, given.
Consider yourself, if you were a sort of Rothschildian, lizard person elite who is responsible for much of the world's sort of economic well-being. You consider it a benevolent way, of course, because you don't consider yourself sort of a evil monster who. Whatever, you get it. And you're like, oh my gosh, yep, okay, guys, it's gonna happen again. We really got ourselves in a pickle this time. Okie dokie, let's pull the lever on the war. We'll do the pandemic. Yeah. We'll print a bunch of money and then do the old switcheroo, blame it on Putin. And then, either we'll have a new system or we'll adjust this system, something to just keep the world going. You would consider yourself some sort of superhero.
Oh, yeah. I think these people think that they are doing a service to the world. Yeah. By unplugging these particular patches and re-plugging it somewhere else and then banning whatever their the plan is.
It's so convenient that they can just blame it on one man.
Blame it on one guy.
One man on Earth can cover their butts for this, huge, history of humanity shift. It's just too convenient. That's one of the things that's so crazy about this one thing where it's like the whole world is going to explode because one crazy guy, Putin. And it takes away all the attention from all the other causes of this, all the other people, all the other systems. Yeah. And they can reset it, blame it on Putin, and then hopefully keep things going. But you're right. Right now, it is a very strange time, and I do not want this to be lost on anybody. What is happening currently, today, as we are recording this, is a shift in the financial structure of the human species on a level that none of us have lived through before.
Yeah, it's always been isolated in pockets and nations, but this is the first time we have communication infrastructure worldwide. We have internet. There's different things going on now that make this time very, very interesting.
Yeah, and there's this shift in the structure, this new world order. Again, I love it. Even the mainstream is using the language of like this new world order versus the old world order. Yeah. And we will destroy the old world order, which is Putin, and protect and bring about this new world order. And they don't just mean it metaphorically. They are literally talking about the way everything works. Right now is a crazy time to be alive.
Yeah. And, I had this big, long gold rant prepared that Basil kind of poo-pooed on, but I think before the show, by the way, so no emails, please. But the point I was trying to get to you, Basil.
I didn't poo-poo. I think there's a little bit more.
Well, in there. It was in the context of commodities, like gold being one of the commodities, and who knows, it might be kind of an SDAR situation, a basket of commodities that creates a basis for a currency or whatever it might be. But I just wanted to show this chart here, central bank official gold net purchases. So this chart shows from 2002 to 2017, and between 2002 and 2009, it was a net negative. So central banks were selling their gold. 2008 crisis hits, 2009, the crisis, the aftermath. Right from that point on, central banks are net positive on purchases of gold. Yeah. So they've been buying more gold since that crisis, which some believe was kind of the unofficial reset, unofficial Bretton Woods 3. Hey, we're kind of shifting back into commodities, but we're not going to do it for a while because we got to roll out the pandemic and we got some stuff we got to build. You know what I mean? So I think that's kind of what I was getting at.
There needs to be a catalyst. Yeah. And by the way, you cannot use those terms about me shutting you down. I did not poo-poo you. I asked one I asked a question that you did not have an answer to. But this all ties in. This all ties in with the CBDC thing,
right?
And my point, your point was that everything will switch back to commodities, and perhaps gold is a part of that. And I think that's true. But I think that's only true for the higher level economics. I don't think the dollar that you and I carry in our wallets will be connected in the same way that
we will be told.
Let me rephrase that. Yeah, it's not. We won't be holding the dollar.
No, we will be told that the U.S. dollar, especially in the form of a CBDC, will not be a true representation of the actual commodities.
What I mean. The CBDC is what they give to the peons. Those are our credits, our store credits.
Yeah, our Fed credits.
Our Fed credits, right. We'll get the Fed credits, which is centrally controlled and manipulated by the elites. But the sort of meta economics that we will never touch, the things, like a petrodollar. We don't have access to a petrodollar, But
see, the reason why I would say
hold on.
Go ahead.
So much in the same way, we'll be using the CBDC imaginary digital cryptocurrency that Biden's so excited about, but the meta commodities based economy will be what facilitates economics between elites and countries.
Sure. And you say there's nothing to do with each other. Is that what you're kind of arguing? Or
yeah, more or less. I mean, yeah, CBDC will have nothing to do with the international trade.
See, I think it would, only in the sense that even if it's illusory, because you can control, especially with CBDC, because you can take away money as quickly as you can give it to someone. Yeah,
you can program it.
You can program it to do things. Yeah, you can do all kinds of stuff.
You can make it so they can't spend it on things.
Right.
You get your CBDC from the government, and in the code of your CBDC will be, oh well, this guy, he can't buy guns with it or something.
Right. After profiling,
it's a control mechanism.
Yeah. So.
And those are not the things they're going to use to purchase commodities from wherever. We're not going to be buying wheat with CBDCs. We're going to be buying wheat with the commodity-backed dollar.
Right. Okay, yeah, I agree with you there, but I will also still say that psychologically, the supply of the dollar, the purchasing power of the CBDC will always be tied to the greater economic system. So. It doesn't matter if it's not literal.
Why would they though? Why would they tie it?
Because it's a great way to psychologically control everybody.
Well, I guess. I mean, I think the beauty about the CBDC, the thing they love about a government backed cryptocurrency, government issued cryptocurrency, is that they can just make it up as they go. They can set the value to whatever they want.
The current thing going.
Keep it totally separate from any real world thing, any commodity. They would not give that kind of power, because if you have a piece of money that is backed by a commodity, that's very powerful. You're very powerful as a citizen with that. And that's why, switching to the fiat money and now sort of fiat 2.0, a CBDC, is it just takes more power away. There's less control. There's less you can do with it. And I don't think they want you or I to have access to a true commodity valued currency.
So you think they're going to ban people from having the ability to even purchase real commodities?
I think you'll have to be really smart. And you'll have to be really intentional. Like, I think
you're basically describing the rise of a technocracy.
Oh, is that what I'm doing?
I think that's what you're doing, because you have to be at a certain level of education to access.
You got to earn your access to the real money.
Yeah, it's the Elon Musk model. It's like, here's your Christ.
Exactly.
Here's your prototype of how you can climb the ladder here.
Yeah.
I can agree with that.
It'll be the high level investors, the high level business people, the not the workers, not the people fixing the robots as the robots take over, who will have access to true value.
at the very least, we can say that you and I can 100% agree that this crisis is being used as a catalyst to invoke a CBDC US dollar, a digital currency US dollar to become an actual viable part of whatever the Fed plans to do to keep this thing going.
Yeah.
So, but it comes at a cost, in terms of gas prices and